Imagine standing in a room, completely silent, watching a creature that has lived alongside humanity for 10,000 years. For generations, we have mischaracterized them. We have called them aloof, independent, even cold. But what if we are simply looking at the wrong frequency? What if the bond between a human and a cat isn't absent, but rather encoded in a sophisticated language of neurochemistry, subtle physical geometry, and evolutionary survival? There is an invisible wire that stretches between you and your cat, a physiological and psychological tether that dictates their entire world. When we begin to look past the myths of feline detachment, we uncover a profound, deeply synchronized emotional reality. Think of a moment you might experience every single day. You are sitting on the couch, working or reading, and your cat enters the room. They don't necessarily climb into your lap. Instead, they sit exactly 3 feet away from you on the rug, facing slightly away, grooming themselves or settling into a loose, relaxed loaf. To the untrained eye, this looks like indifference. It looks like a creature that happens to share your coordinates but doesn't particularly care about your presence. In the realm of psychology, however, this microaction is known as proximity maintenance, a foundational pillar of secure attachment theory. When your cat positions themselves within your immediate radius, their brain is conducting a complex environmental risk assessment. By choosing to settle near you, their central nervous system shifts out of a state of hypervigilance. The amygdala, which constantly scans the feline environment for apex predators, quietens. This behavioral choice triggers a cascade of neurochemicals, primarily the downregulation of cortisol and the slow, steady release of oxytocin, the hormone responsible for social bonding and safety. For you as an owner, realizing this changes everything. That quiet presence on the floor isn't a lack of love, it is the ultimate compliment. In the wild, a solitary predator cannot afford to lower its guard. When your cat sits near you and turns their back, they are stating, with absolute biological certainty, that your presence functions as a psychological shield. You are their secure base, the one variable in their environment that guarantees survival, allowing their nervous system to finally rest. This internal state of safety manifests in one of the most mesmerizing auditory phenomena in the natural world, the purr. We often assume a cat purrs simply because they are happy, treating it as the feline equivalent of a human smile. But the mechanics and the true purpose of this sound are far more complex and mathematically precise. A cat purrs by using its larynx and diaphragmatic muscles to create a neural oscillator, sending rhythmic messages to the vocal cords that vibrate at a frequency between 25 and 150 Hz. In the study of regenerative medicine, these exact frequencies have been shown to improve bone density, relieve pain, and accelerate tissue repair. When a cat curls against your chest and begins to purr, they are not just expressing a passive emotion, they are actively deploying a biological mechanism designed to regulate both their body and yours. The vibration stimulates the vagus nerve, which immediately initiates the parasympathetic nervous system, slowing the heart rate and lowering blood pressure. When you feel that deep, rumbling vibration against your skin, you are participating in a reciprocal neurochemical loop. Your cat is using their own body to actively soothe your nervous system while simultaneously reinforcing their own. It is an act of mutual biological repair. The comfort you feel in that moment isn't an illusion or a projection of human emotion, it is a measurable, physiological synchronization. Their body is actively working to heal the space between you. This synchronization becomes even more profound when we analyze how a cat processes the sensory world around them, particularly through sound. You might notice your cat resting in another room, seemingly asleep, but their ears are constantly rotating like radar dishes, twitching at the slightest movement outside. Yet, when you speak their name, or when you use a specific, high-pitched tone of voice, those ears pin forward, and their eyes soften. Feline auditory processing is extraordinarily sophisticated, evolved to detect the high-frequency rustling of small rodents. Because their hearing extends far into the ultrasonic range, the human world can easily become an overwhelming cacophony of stress. When your cat filters out the background noise of the world to tune in exclusively to the cadence of your voice, they are performing a highly selective psychological sorting process. The specific acoustic signature of your voice stimulates the release of dopamine in the feline brain, transforming a potentially threatening auditory environment into a localized zone of safety. This means that the quiet conversations you have with your cat are far from one-sided. To your cat, your voice is a stabilizing anchor. In moments of environmental chaos, like a thunderstorm or a sudden loud noise, the deliberate, calm frequencies of your speech act as an external regulator for their emotional state. You possess the literal power to alter their brain chemistry simply by speaking, transforming their fear into profound security. The depth of this connection is perhaps most beautifully illustrated by a behavior that many owners witness but rarely fully understand: the slow blink. Your cat looks at you from across the room, catches your eye, and then slowly, deliberately closes their eyes for a beat before opening them again. To understand the weight of this micro-signal, we have to look at evolutionary biology. For a predator that is also a prey species, closing one's eyes in the presence of another creature is an evolutionary paradox. It is a moment of total vulnerability. When a cat slow blinks at you, they are consciously overriding their deeply ingrained survival instincts. They are intentionally blinding themselves to their surroundings for a split second, signaling to you that they have no need to defend themselves against you. This behavior reduces the production of epinephrine and norepinephrine, the chemical drivers of the fight-or-flight response, and replaces them with a wave of serotonin. When you receive a slow blink, you are witnessing an ancient barrier being dissolved by trust. It is the feline equivalent of declaring a total ceasefire. By closing their eyes, your cat is telling you that within the shelter of your relationship, the harsh laws of nature no longer apply. They are completely safe, completely exposed, and entirely at peace in your hands. This trust is not easily given, nor is it easily maintained, because a cat's memory structure is fundamentally built around emotional preservation. When a cat experiences an environment, their brain encodes details through the lens of emotional memory, highly dependent on the stability of their surroundings. This is why a sudden change in the household, a moved piece of furniture, a new scent, or an unexpected absence, can cause a cat to exhibit behaviors that look like spite, such as scratching furniture or avoiding the litter box. These behaviors are never acts of malice, they are the externalized symptoms of a broken cortisol recovery loop. When a cat's predictable environment is disrupted, their baseline cortisol levels spike. Because they lack the human capacity for verbal reassurance, they attempt to self-soothe by depositing their pheromones through scratching or eliminating outside their designated areas, trying desperately to re-establish a sense of self and security in a space that suddenly feels hostile.